Hello, and welcome to a Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness video, where today we'll be completing the game with the Manectric line. And these are two dogs that I've never really used, just because I've never really been that attached to Electrike. Manectric's cool, and Gen 6 gave it a Mega Evolution that was maybe a little too bulky looking, but it was cool regardless. But other than just getting the Mega Evolutions back in Gen 6, I haven't really used these Pokemon, so I'm excited to see how well they do in Pokemon XD, so let's go ahead and get right into it. For base stats, Electrike has 40 HP, 45 attack, 40 defense, 65 special attack, 40 special defense, and 65 speed. It gets access to mostly normal and electric type moves. However, it does get bite, which could come in handy, unfortunately, well after it evolves, meaning that the level that it gets bite at actually goes up to level 39. So bite's not going to be useful until way later into the game. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. Our Electrike in particular has a sassy nature, raising its special defense and lowering its speed, which is honestly okay. We're already really fast as it is, and by the end of the game we'll be over leveled as well, so we shouldn't have to worry about speed being an issue then. It gets the static ability, which can paralyze opponents when they hit us with physical moves. It can also have lightning rod, but it's not very useful for Electrike in particular. And according to Bulbapedia, it gets Tackle, Thunder Wave, and Leer by level 10. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. And eventually I get to the old man battle that I always like to show. And this took quite a while to get to, and that's because I really only have Tackle as a damaging move. And I also got the move Howl, which raises my attack by 1 stage, which did come in handy, but we are very weak on the physical side, so a lot of these battles take quite a few hits to actually finish, and we don't have a ton of health, so I'm really glad Teddiursa is here to take some of the hits for us, because even the Abra, which is very physically frail, took 2 hits to take down, and the Horsea is going to be a 3-shot, and I'm losing defense every time it uses Leer, so I'm eventually able to take it down. And then all that's left is the Shroomish, and as long as it doesn't go for Tackle, I think I'm safe. But I decided to Thunder Wave it anyway, just because I don't want it to attack nearly as often as it can. And now to Howl to get my attack up. Absorb again takes me down to 9 health. And I go for Tackle, which isn't quite doing half. So it will be a 3-shot on the Shroomish. I go for another Tackle, which takes it down very low. And Absorb. And one last Tackle finishes it off. So it was a little close, but we end up beating him on the first attempt. And at level 17 I get Quick Attack, which is just better Tackle. And at the Cypher base I decide to fight Green first, and the reason for this is just his Pokemon are a lot weaker. And even though I don't think I'm actually going to win this fight, just getting the extra level from level 9s is probably safer than trying to take on any of the other trainers. Anyway, with that being said, let's commence a little bit of rambling. So first thing, thanks so much for watching. If you are enjoying this video, consider giving it a like, and if you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. Now we have officially hit 100 subscribers, so thank you to everyone new and old for continuing to support and watch these videos. I didn't think we'd make it this far so quickly, and you know, it's good to see that there's a good community of this game, because that was one of the big fears going into this, was would anyone watch a Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness video? Because I know when I was a viewer of other people doing Pokemon challenge videos and whatnot, I always found that these were more of a novelty game series that, you know, you'd see people look back on and say that was neat, but not actually take too seriously. And there was just a lack of actual challenge videos on this game itself. So, you know, there's always that idea of maybe no one's going to watch. But all of you here have proved those fears wrong, so thank you so much for sticking around. Anyway, we're just about done with this battle, and surprisingly we actually got through it, which I didn't think was possible. So we move right along into the Cypher base, where I find out very quickly I'm too weak to actually take down any enemies, so I go to Mount Battle to get myself to level 20 to learn the move Spark, which is going to be my best move for quite a while. And at level 26 I evolve into Manectric, which will certainly help, and with a new evolution means new stats. Manectric has 70 HP, 75 attack, 60 defense, 105 special attack, 60 special defense, and 105 speed, which should certainly help in the amount of damage I can do, because 105 special attack is nothing to scoff at. However, that 75 attack really isn't that helpful for all the normal type moves I can learn, because they're all physical, but it shouldn't be too big of an issue because Electric is pretty decent in this game. So jumping back to it, level 29, I get the move Mimic from the tutor lady because I might need it for later, and I go ahead and pick up the move Roar and replace Thunderwave. And the big reason for this is because of naps. Now, usually naps isn't too big of an issue, especially if you can outspeed the Murkrow, but because the Rhyhorn has Lightning Rod, it means I can't actually take down the Murkrow in a single spark, and I instead have to focus on taking down the Rhyhorn, which I don't really have a good move to do. That's the main reason for Mimic. So I'm going to steal Pursuit from the Murkrow in order to use against the Rhyhorn later. And now with Rhyhorn out of the picture, I can just use Spark to take down the Murkrow in a single hit. And he's going to bring Rhyhorn out again because it is its best Pokemon to take me down. And I go for Pursuit, which nearly one-shots it. I think if I had gone up one more level, it probably would have been a one-shot. But I am taken down fairly low. I'm able to take down the Rhyhorn though. And then out comes Slackoth. Beldum actually misses a takedown. I decide to take down Beldum, and Scratch doesn't quite finish me off, so I'm able to beat him and get past one of the hardest fights for an electric type in the early game. We of course come to Loverina, the first boss of the game. She leads with a Love Disc and a Beautifly, and because I'm electric I can take down both of her leads whenever I feel. And I go for Spark into Roselia, and as it turns out it's a two-shot. It sets up Leech Seed, which is a bit annoying, so I do want to take it down. But unfortunately, I'm just a little too weak for a two-shot, so it ends up healing a bit. So I decide to change strategy, go and take out Beautifly, which brings out Delcatty. Another Mega Drain from Roselia now puts it too high for me to take down with a single Spark again. So I decide to continue taking down the Delcatty, which is a one-shot. And unfortunately, unless I get something like a crit, I'm not going to win, because it's still a three-shot to take down Roselia. So let's go ahead and try that again. I go back into the battle, Spark to take down the Love Disc just as before, except this time I'm going to completely ignore the Roselia because I know for a fact I can take down all of her other Pokemon in a single hit. So the Roselia can't really do enough damage to take me down over the course of 3 turns, so I finish off the Delcatty. Mega Drain takes me down to about a third of my health. I go for Spark, which actually gets a paralysis on Roselia, but it heals up over half. I go for another Spark, taking it down into red, and it gets paralyzed, so I'm able to take it down with one last Spark and beat Loverina on the second attempt, so not too bad. Of course, you can't have a Pokemon XD Gala Darkness video without the obligatory Mirror Bee. How are you doing, Mirror Bee? We actually need something from you today. Because your Voltorb's holding the magnet item, we're actually going to steal that from you. So thank you so much, Mirror Bee. Have a nice day. Anyway, we run into another Electrike soon after, which I'm able to take down with a single Spark. And at the Realgam Tower, I pick up my 2 favorite TMs, TM10 Hidden Power and TM17 Protect, which I'm going to teach Hidden Power right away because at the moment my type coverage is abysmal. So what type does it happen to be? Well, it's Hidden Power Fighting, which unfortunately relies on our pretty low attack stat, but that's alright. At level 39, we get access to the move Bite, which I'm going to teach over Mimic, and I'm going to use that to take down this Electrike I found. And we go into the battle against Snaddle. He leads with a Lantern and a Quagsire. I go for Bite into the Quagsire, which isn't quite a one-shot, but hopefully it flinches. It does not, but it does miss a Rock Tomb, which is nice. I'm able to take it down. Out comes Lunatone, which I think should be a one-shot with Bite, but it actually holds on with just a little bit of health left. So unfortunately it does set up Shadow Sky, which is going to do constant damage to all non-Shadow Pokemon. But I finish off with another Bite. Out comes Castform. And the facades from the Lantern are actually starting to build up and hurt. I go for Spark to take down the Castform. And then out comes his final Pokemon, which is Metang. Another facade, taking me down pretty low. And at this point, I'm basically doomed. I go for a Spark, which does one-shot Metang, but Facade finishes me off with the help of a few Fruity Pebbles. So I go back into the fight again. I go for Bite just as before. Don't get a flinch on the Quagsire, so it is able to hit me with a Rock Tomb, lowering my speed. But I'm already insanely quick, so it shouldn't really matter too much. I finish it off with another Bite, and then out comes Lunatone, and I go for Spark this time, which I thought might do more damage, but it doesn't. It's basically the same. It sets up Shadow Sky just as before, and so I finished it off with a Bite just as before, and then out comes Castform. And because Lantern hasn't decided to hit me with a contact move, it's not actually paralyzed, so it's not going to start using Facade. And Water Guns are much more manageable for Manectric to actually take, so it's only about half health by the time it gets to Matang coming out. So I go for Spark to take it down, and I don't remember if Lantern has Volt Absorb or Illuminate, so I'm going to play it safe and go with Bite, which isn't quite enough to take it down. But the Fruity Pebbles fade, and it didn't get a crit, so one last Bite finishes it off, so not too bad. At level 45, I get the move Thunder. Now normally I wouldn't teach a move like this because it's so inaccurate, but also it might just want that extra damage. Anyway, we go into the boss fight against Snaddle, and as you can see I'm already fairly low, so I'm only going to be able to do a few things before I go down, but I just want to test some stuff. So Nuzleaf goes down in a single hidden power fighting, and then out comes Vileplume, which isn't a one-shot with Thunder, which is good to know for the second attempt. Now I'm going to use Call on the first turn just to raise the accuracy of Thunder to something more manageable. And so I go for Thunder to get a crit and take down the Electrode. I'm not sure if the crit mattered, but it's good to have. And then out comes Vileplume once again. I go for Bite to hopefully flinch it, which I get, and I go for another Bite to finish it off. And then out comes Whiscash. Now, I don't think Whiscash is all that dangerous, however, it is definitely more dangerous than the Nuzleaf is, so I'm going to take it down with 3 bites. It's so close to being a 2-shot though. Anyway, another Bite takes it down, and then out comes his final Pokemon, which is Skarmory, and Skarmory poses no threat because Spark should be able to take it down in a single hit, and then all that's left is the Nuzleaf, which I know I can take down with 1 hidden power, and beat Snaddle on the second attempt, so not too bad. And finally, at the Pyramid, I'm able to pick up the move Thunderbolt and teach it over Spark, which leads us into the battle against Gorgon. He leads with a Lairon and a Celio. I go for a Thunderbolt to take down the Celio, and then out comes Slowking, and I go for Hidden Power to take down the Lairon in a single hit, and then out comes Ursaring. Slowking goes for Water Pulse, which doesn't confuse me luckily, so I'm able to take it down in a single Thunderbolt as well. And then out comes Primeape, which is his first Shadow Pokemon. I go for Thunderbolt to take it down, and then out comes his second Shadow Pokemon and his last Pokemon, Hypno. Ursaring goes for Earthquake, doing quite a bit to me, but also quite a bit to Hypno as well. I take down the Ursaring, and Hypno hits me with a Shadow Storm, only doing about 40 damage. So I'm able to finish off with one last Thunderbolt and beat Gorgon, which leads us to the very last area of the game. And as long as it can keep this momentum going, it could end up with a pretty good time. So let's see how it does in Citydark Isle. And the first battle we have here is against Lovrina. She leads with a Gardevoir and a Gorbis. I go for Thunderbolt, which takes down the Gardevoir in a single hit, and then out comes Roselia. Now Gorbis is just going to use Water Pulse against me. I go for Thunderbolt, which isn't quite a one-shot on Roselia, so it's able to set up a Leech Seed. So I decide to swap targets and go ahead and take down the Gorbis, because I don't want to be confused. However, in doing this, I have just allowed the Roselia to use Attract. Now, Attract isn't really that annoying. It's like a 50% chance to be immobilized by love, I believe. Unfortunately, my luck is not the greatest in this battle because I get immobilized twice in a row. And at this point, I'm getting pretty low on health, so I decide to just risk it all on Thunder, and it misses. I get hit with a Shadow Rush and go down to a Magical Leaf. That's alright. Obviously just a little lucky, and I could get through this, right? This is attempt number 8. This is not a difficult battle by any means. I was just getting incredibly unlucky. I would get attracted and lose many turns in a row. I would get confused by Water Pulse or Farfetch'd and do a ton of damage to myself. And I even got frozen by Gorbis's Ice Beams a couple times. So what should have been a pretty easy second, maybe third try victory turned into 8 because my luck was so incredibly bad. But that's Pokemon for you. And one last Thunderbolt takes down Altaria. At the top of the mountain, I decided to teach Protect over Hidden Power, because I don't really think I need Hidden Power anymore. And I go into the battle against Snaddle again. He leads with a Matang and Quagsire this time, and I go for Bite to try to get a flinch on the Quagsire. Unfortunately, it doesn't, and it hits me with a Mud Shot, which does quite a bit of damage to me. I go for Protect just to heal up some, and go for a Bite to finish it off. And then out comes Scizor, which really can't threaten me with anything other than maybe getting Omni Boosts on Silverwind. So I decide that I'm going to get rid of the Matang because it could definitely hurt me more with its Psychic's lowering special defense as a possibility. So let's see how much Silverwind does, and it's almost nothing. I go for Thunderbolt to take down the Solrock. Out comes Castform, another Silverwind. This time I'm going to go for Protect because it's only got one more use after this one. And I really don't want to raise its chances of getting that Omni Boost. Castform goes down, and then all that's left is the Shadow Starmie. And it doesn't get it. I go for Protect just to heal up a little bit before I try to take down the Starmie, and unfortunately because I was hit with Med Shot, I am actually slower than it, so it does get off a pretty strong Shadow Storm on me. I go for Protect once again, just in case I'm not able to take down Scizor in a single hit, but I do, and I beat Snaddle on the first attempt. Now after this, I run into Ardos, who leads with an Alakazam and a Swellow, and because I'm so fast, I actually outspeed both of them, which is nice. It sets up Shadow Sky, and out comes Kingdra. Now I'm going to go for Protect here, just in case it goes for Shadow Half, like it does. And now it can't attack for the next turn, so I'm free to take down the Kingdra. And it might just be locked into using Shadow Half for the rest of the battle. So I do want to be protecting every other turn, just in case it decides to do it again, which it does. And now Heracross is guaranteed to be a one-shot, which I decide to use Thunderbolt on it to take it down. And then out comes his second Shadow Pokemon, which is Electabuzz. And because the Fruity Pebbles ended, I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do, but as it turns out, Swellow still just wants to use Shadow Half. And Electabuzz also agrees that Shadow Half is the correct move, so I use Thunderbolt to take down the Electabuzz. And then out comes his final Pokemon, which is Snorlax. So I decide to go for Bite here, because I want to get as many flinches as I can. But the Shadow Mist makes it so the Shadow Wind hits, and it crits and takes me down in a single hit. Okay, well, I decided to go back over to the Realgam Tower to go pick up Hidden Power once again, and I went ahead and fast-forwarded through the battle, because Swellow decided this time it wanted to use Shadow Break instead of Shadow Half, so I'm actually having to take it down first instead. And then Heracross comes out. He misses a Rock Tomb, which is nice, because then Electabuzz might have been able to outspeed me. I take down Heracross, and now that Heracross is down, and the Shadow Snorlax is back out again, the Electabuzz is only going to be going for Shadow Mist, so I can pretty safely try to take down the Snorlax. Unfortunately, it does hit a Shadow End, and Hidden Power fighting isn't quite enough to take it down in a single hit, and I decide to go for Protect here, just in case Electabuzz decides to do something strange. Hidden Power finishes off the Snorlax, Electabuzz goes for Shadow Mist, and I decide to go for Thunderbolt here because I think it'll do the most damage anyway. And that's Ardos. Anyway, moving along to Gorgon once again. He leads with the Slowking and Ursaring this time. I use Thunderbolt to take down the Slowking in a single hit, and then out comes Aggron. And I go for Thunderbolt into the Ursaring to take it down. And then out comes Walrein. And I go for Protect here because I know they're both going to attack. And Aggron actually uses Earthquake, dealing damage to Walrein. So now I know I can take it down in a single Thunderbolt, even if I couldn't before. Out comes Poliwrath, which I'm almost certain I can take down in a single Thunderbolt, because I do. And then out comes Mr. Mime. And the Aggron is going to use Earthquake, which does quite a lot of damage to me, but also takes Mr. Mime to half health. And because of that, I know that Aggron isn't going to use Earthquake again. However, I'm not too certain if I can survive a Mr. Mime attack either, but eventually I decide to take down Aggron. Shadow Storm comes out, taking me down pretty low, but Thunderbolt finishes it off, and I beat Gorgon on the first attempt. Moving along to Eldis, and hey look, another Manectric. Now, I don't think there's any way for me to actually one-shot the Manectric, so it is able to set up Shadow Sky on the first turn. But because this Nanjask is going to be using Dig, it does give me 2 free turns right at the beginning of the battle to take down the other Manectric. And Fruity Pebbles are going to be raining. I go for Protect here to not get hit by Dig. And I go for Thunderbolt to see how much it'll do to Salamence. Hopefully it's a one-shot, but I kinda doubt it. Because Elements is fairly tanky, I thought, never mind, it goes down in a single hit. Out comes Flygon, and I go for Protect once again to not get hit by Dig. Flygon's just going for Double Edge, which is nice. I go for Bite into it, and I'm doing well over half. Unfortunately, it doesn't get flinched, so it does hit me with Double Edge doing some damage. I go for Protect once again, and then another Bite to finish off the Flygon. And then out comes possibly the strongest Pokemon he has, specifically for Manectric, and that's because Marowak can do a ton of damage because it's holding the Thick Club item, which doubles its attack stat. I do get a lucky miss on the first one, but it's going to be a 3-shot with Bite, so I need to hope for a flinch here, which I don't get. It hits Shadow In, taking me down past health. I go for Protect just to heal up a little bit, and then I go for Bite to finish it off, and then out comes his final Pokemon, which is a Shadow Lapras, and I feel pretty confident I can take it down a single Thunderbolt, which I do, and then all that's left is the Ninjask, which I doubt could take me down. Okay, maybe I spoke a little too soon, that was a little too close for comfort. Anyway, we beat Eldis and move on to the big box legendary, Shadowlugia, who immediately goes down to 1 Thunderbolt. So we go into the final battle, and I go for Thunderbolt. Luckily this Rhydon doesn't have Lightning Rod this time, so I'm able to take down the Moltres in a single hit. However, it does hit me with the Shadow In, doing half my health. I go for Protect just to heal up a little bit, and I go for Bite to finish it off, because Rhydon is very strong. Out comes Tauros, which might go down in a single hit with Thunderbolt, and it does, and then out comes Articuno. And Exeggutor actually uses Shadow Hold, which is nice. I go for Protect again to heal up just a little bit more, and at this point I'm actually getting pretty high on health. Articuno goes down, out comes Zapdos, and Exeggutor finally hits a Shadow End. And at this point, I really don't want to deal with the luck of Exeggutor, so I decide to take it out with a Bite. And luckily it actually does go down. Zapdos hits me with Shadow Bolt, doing quite a bit of damage to me, but as long as I outspeed and it doesn't crit, I think I'm safe to take it down in just a couple hits. Okay, a little close, but we take that first try victory, and we see how well Manectric did. It beat the game at a time of 11 hours, 28 minutes, and 32 seconds at level 70, with a total of 26 faints. So not too bad. However, it did have quite a lot of struggles in the early game, because it only gets the move Tackle to deal damage. Many fights took many minutes to actually finish, and because it's very frail on both the physical and special side, it really can't survive all that many attacks, which is why Teddiursa really helped out in the beginning. And the other thing is that, very much like all the other electric types we've seen, other than probably Jolteon, is that electric types don't get a lot of type coverage. They get normal and electric type moves, primarily, with maybe 1 or 2 moves that are a bit of type coverage. So even though Manectric has some pretty good stats, it's let down by the fact that it starts out with Tackle early on and doesn't get anything for quite a while, and it just doesn't have a varied enough move pool to make use of those stats. So it finds itself in the B+ tier along with fellow dog Mightyena, and sits as the second best electric type I've used so far. So nice job, Manectric. Anyway, I guess that's about it for this video, so if you did enjoy it, consider liking and subscribing. If you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. And thank you so much for 100 subscribers, and hopefully we just keep growing. Bye.